Hello, hello! Feck, Gary enjoyers rejoice as Tia is right around the corner. I wonder if they are releasing now kits early through the game is a trend or if Intern Kun messed up yet again. Um, Anyways, I really hope that you guys' reserves are ready because these two cuties will take out quite a few reserves so you can make use of them. And anniversary is right around the corner. And yeah, I mean, time flies by, and our reserves also kind of just flew by, apparently. Anyways, let's go right into her kit. Tia is a fake Burst 1 Iron Rocket Launcher Nikke. As to why I call her a fake Burst 1, more about that later. Her skill 1, Reptile Lover, activates when recovering covers HP and affects herself, reducing the cooldown of her burst skill by 13 seconds, stacking up to 2 times and lasting 12 seconds. Also, as a second part, whenever recovering covers HP, all of her allies will receive from her a 32.11% attack damage up for 10 seconds. Her skill 2, Chameleon Invisibility, activates after landing 5 normal attacks and affects herself. It increases her cover's max HP by 32.75% of her max HP, lasting for 5 seconds, and taunting enemies as well for 5 seconds. When she uses her burst as the part 2 of her skill 2, she recovers her cover HP by 21.41% of the caster's final HP. Her burst skill, Lizard's Protection, affects herself and generates a shield for 35.07% of her final max HP for 10 seconds. Also, all of her allies, except herself of course, generate a shield of 10.21% of her final max HP. And finally, the reason why I call her a fake Burst 1 is that she will make everyone re-enter Burst Stage 1 immediately. Now, should you pull? Yes, assuming that you will not regret maybe not having enough reserves for anniversary, which is right around the corner. Remember that if you pull for Tia, you kind of need to pull for Naga to be able to make full use of her potential. Now, is she very strong? Yes, she is incredibly strong. She may even prove to be Union Raid worthy, which is one of the highest levels of praise I can give to a Nikke. Well, assuming that you're pairing her with Naga, of course. And even for solo raid and campaign stages and bosses, she can be incredibly powerful, of course, assuming you're pairing her with Naga. However, I must dispel a misconception here yet again, as I did in the Naga hot take. People call this pair Bunnygirls 2.0, which may cause some very severe misunderstandings. Yes, when paired with Naga, she is incredibly strong and can even outperform Bunnygirls in certain scenarios in terms of raw damage. But they are far more niche, or at least their niche is far more pronounced than, for example, Bunnygirls. Should you bring Tia into a very heavy damage stage where your cover gets deleted very quickly, such as Laser Raptures or Modernia with her laser, Tia loses out on a lot of her power, and also can be deleted, as you know from the Sniper Raptors. In a similar fashion, her best pair, Naga, loses out on a huge chunk of her utility if there is no core to strike. A good example of this is yet again Modernia, Chatterbox, Nihilister, meaning that as long as these two conditions are met, meaning cores to strike and cover damage that does not destroy the cover completely, they will outshine the Bunnygirls. Otherwise, Bunnygirls will almost always outshine them no matter what. Now, I am mentioning Bunnygirls, but it also means that in scenarios where you can afford to go very aggressive, they will also be competing with the novel comp, which technically outshines them in damage in quite a few scenarios, but that is another caveat. They are in that in-between niche where you need just enough survivability to continuously do damage, and where you can use core damage and also the cover recovery without breaking your cover. Now onto the specifics. Her first skill has a self effect and an effect that affects all allies, the conditional being for both that cover needs to be recovered. The first half lowers the cooldown of her burst skill by 13 seconds, stacking up to twice, making it a 26-second cooldown reduction. This lowers her 40-second cooldown all the way down to 14 seconds, making her capable of bursting on cooldown without a cooldown reduction Nikke, which in a sense widens her pairings beyond just B1 CDR Nikkes, but we may end up favoring them regardless. This is a great skill that functions in a way similar to Blanc's requirements to be with a 777 squad mate to lower her cooldown. Currently, the only squad mate that she has is Noir, but because it is reliant on cover recovery, on that front alone, she is less restrictive as in the future we acquire more and more cover recovery Nikkes. Now, currently, the most obvious pairing is, of course, Naga, as she will be proccing her cover recovery a lot on top of Tia's own cover recovery through her burst-related skill 2. Now, the second part grants a 32.11% attack buff for 10 seconds for each recovery proc whenever, for example, Naga in her case fires 12 bullets, or for example, every 15 seconds with Leader's cover recovery skill. She has a lot of potential in terms of uptimes, so I will be putting a timeline to kind of visualize what kind of potential you would have assuming you don't manual her when it comes to, for example, her skill 2 5 bullet mechanic. Now, as you can see with Naga alone in this timeline, her uptimes are relatively high, like quite high actually. If we add Leader, her uptimes just go absolutely bonkers, because she will be covering some of those very small gaps that Naga may have through her own cover recovery skill, on top of providing, cooldown reduction and also her burst skill, as she is a burst 1 Nikke. Now for her second skill, it is a 5-second taunt along with increasing her cover max HP by 5 seconds, meaning that she's kind of meant to tank shots by leveraging her cover by using her taunt. It will be a very large question mark whether or not this skill will count as cover recovery, since it functions in a similar way to Noise by increasing the maximum HP of the cover, and it is kind of a form of healing, but not really. My personal bet is that it doesn't, as if it actually did, she would have very ridiculous uptimes on every single cover-related skill. Her taunt being related to firing 5 times means that she can almost keep up the enemy permanently taunted, especially if you manual her, but it also means that you have a lot of control on when she is taunting, again by manualing her or forcing her to take cover. Which is a far cry, for example, from Christmas Rupee, who is a similar niche as a fake burst 1 Nikke, whose taunt skill is tied to her burst, meaning that you have far less control over her taunt and she may just die. The second half of her skill grants her leech when bursting, as well as a 21.41% of final max HP as cover recovery. This skill is kind of like the meat on the bones of her tanking capabilities. It allows the Raptors to really slap that thick cover, and also her very thick health bar as a way to protect her team. These skills allow her to, heal up a little bit, and also allow her to cover and tank some of those very hefty shots through her cover. It means that overall this skill is really good, and again, as I compare it with Christmas Rupee, the player has full discretion on when to trigger the taunt and how and when to taunt to be able to parry the shots with cover, stop it, kind of like in a way as to how you manual a Noise. Now, the Leech allows her again to recover some HP, And once you add on top of that Naga's own healing, the HPS is not completely horrendous. It's not the greatest either, but it is quite good and pairs really well with the shielding as a complement for sustain. Also, it affects herself only, meaning that she will not be providing too much additional healing should you be pairing this pair with Berserker Nikke's, for example. Her burst skill is why I call her a fake burst 1 Nikke yet again. Upon using it, all allies re-enter burst stage 1, meaning that you will always need to pair her with an additional 20-second burst 1 Nikke, otherwise you will never reach stage 2, and if it's a 40-second one, well, you will not be able to enter full burst on rotation. She grants herself a very hefty shield for additional tanking, which is quite good, as well as a smaller shield for all of her allies. As I mentioned before, the shielding allows her to proc her synergies with Naga, enabling all of her shield-reliant skills. It has a 40-second cooldown unless you have skill 1 active. Other than that, it's not much else to say, besides that it's a very good skill with the fact that shielding has the additional utility of being a sort of kind of healing, but isn't really healing. Shields are Berserker Nikke's, such as Guillotine or even Scarlet to some extent, best friend, as it allows them to keep them low HP while also providing protection through the shielding. So this is a very, very good burst skill. How could I talk about her skill 1, skill 2, and burst without talking about uptimes? So bringing back again the timeline, you can see that 1, if you do the Tia 5 bullet mechanic, you will have very high uptime even if you're not manualing her. Manualing would allow you to have even more uptime on that, and also more discretion on her taunt and other related on her 5 bullet mechanic. Her burst will baseline have around a 59.44% uptime if you're using cooldown reduction shenanigans such as leader, but the real crown piece here is the uptime of her CDR as well as her cover recovery related attack buff. So assuming that you can always proc cover recovery, meaning that your cover is taking enough damage to continuously use these cover recovery skills with Naga and her burst, her 2 stacks of cooldown reduction will have permanent uptime with Naga alone as a pair, meaning that she will always have that 14-second cooldown on her burst. The really interesting part is when we go into her attack up buff. If we only pair her with Naga, there will be some gaps, but it will have incredibly high uptime. Incredibly high uptime. Nearly 100% actually, if you look at it. However, once you pair her with Leader on top of that, which she will provide cooldown reduction, attack, ammo recovery, which is really good as well for other uptimes such as Naga's and Tia's. But her cover recovery would theoretically allow you to have permanent uptime on her attack buff. Again, assuming that you're not recovering cover. Take a shot every time I say cover recovery on this video in general, because you will be hearing that a lot. You would have essentially permanent uptime on that very hefty attack up buff. But again, this is relative to how much damage your cover is taking, so that you can always proc this cover recovery. That's another shot for you. So yeah, the uptimes will be quite impressive, and if we look at it in terms of the entire timeline, looking at Naga plus Tia, the uptimes and the way everything weaves in together, and if you add Leader on top of that, you will have a very powerful team for the scenarios where the niche applies. Now, when it comes to synergies, of course, our main synergy will always be Naga at the moment with the Nikkes that we have available. But she also has synergies with other Nikkes such as Leader that recover cover and Cocoa, for example, as well. Now, I will not mention Nikkes such as Biscuit that has a gimmick that recovers cover even after the cover has been destroyed, which is cover rebuild. as it is impossible to run 2 burst 2 Nikkes with Naga Tia, due to the fact that you're locked into having already 2 burst 1 Nikkes, making it impossible to have 2 burst 2 unless you don't want to be able to full burst on rotation. For additional synergies, she can grant multiple forms of protection for Berserker Nikkes through her shielding and taunt, making her a really decent pair with Scarlet and Guillotine. Especially if you consider Naga's healing that is not too strong added into all of this mix. She has additional synergies as well with Nikkes that love being paired with Naga, or that love being paired with attack buffs. As such, she will have synergies with most of the meta Nikkes, as she unlocks an additional team building option for both Union Raid in certain niches, as well as Solo Raid and even Campaign. As such, well, she can pair quite well with Modernia, Alice, Snow White, but also Summer Anise teams, as Naga is an electro-coded Nikke, meaning you can pair her and then add one of the 2 current Berserker Nikkes that also happen to be electro-coded. Those 2 Nikkes being Scarlet and Guillotine. Now, it should also be mentioned that, again, while they have a lot of synergies as great supports that may even outperform Bunnygirls if they are within their niche of specialty, fights such as Modernia will very much hard counter this team very, very badly. Modernia has no core, again, core as in a strikeable core that will give you red numbers. Modernia has technically a fake core, which is actually a breakable part, and she has no area where you can do those red numbers that mean that you're hitting the core. And she also has a laser beam that can remove the cover of all of your Nikkes in one hit, meaning that she will automatically disable all cover related skills of Tia, which is her skill 1 and skill 2, but also disables all cover and cover recovery related skills from Naga due to the way Modernia is built, meaning that she also switches off her skill 1 and skill 2. So all of a sudden, if you're trying to fight Modernia with Naga Tia, well, you're disabling 2/3 of their kit instantly. As such, they can be kind of inflexible and less universal than, for example, bunnies when it comes to have a peak performance. You may not like how it looks like, but that is what it looks like. For Arena, she's a taunter and a rocket launcher, so she will have her uses, but because she's a fake burst 1, she makes it very, very difficult to slot and make use of, as you would need to slot in an additional burst 1 Nikke on top of her to make use of her into the team. Her taunt, cover recovery, and protection could, however, prove useful against certain teams, although overall she will probably be an incredibly niche pick. Most of the time, you probably will be using her if you are kind of out of options to add an additional rocket launcher to fill in gaps or in very, very specific scenarios. Such as, for example, pairing her with Biscuit, because Biscuit grants kind of immortality to defenders through one of her skills. Now, her Arena Synergies is essentially that. Anything that can accommodate a fake Burst 1 rocket launcher will have to some extent synergy with her as far as Arena is concerned. So this will be it for Tia's hot take video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please do check out Naga's hot take video for more details on her other pair. And otherwise, I hope to see you next time. I will stream almost every single day, which is 9 p.m. GMT plus 2, which is roughly 1 hour before Nikke reset. And we'll be streaming my Naga Tia pool, so I really hope to see you there. Otherwise, if you like the video, feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment for more similar content in the future. With that out of the way, Aliane out.